guys, I have the wonderful privilege of introducing to the social media world my good friend Jonelle. We have known each other for a number of years. I'm not going to tell you how many years we've known each other. That probably would give away our age. But anyway, she has been on an exciting journey. She graduated with her PhD recently. She has a new job. And now she started a blog. So, Jonelle, tell us a little bit about this blog. What's your inspiration here?
Well, first of all, I should thank you, Rhonda, for agreeing to interview me.
Oh, absolutely.
For my first blog, social media post,
yes.
Where my followers will get to see me and hear me talk and share some of my story. So the blog is called The Courageous Walk, and all of my social media is the Courageous Walk. I was inspired to do this over 2 years ago. And there was a lot of fear, so I didn't. I just thought about what it would be like and imagined what I would want to share with a community of women, and I chose not to. I decided to focus on writing my PhD because that really was the priority at the time.
True.
And, once Corona came around and I was at home and there were I had nothing to do other than when I was working, I thought maybe this is a time that I could explore doing something that was for me, that was separate from my job, and that would be meaningful. So I decided to do research because research comes natural to me. I ended up watching hours of YouTube videos, reading, and trying to figure out how to start a website, how to do a blog, what would make the most sense to put some of my expertise and my experiences for the world to see. One of the reasons why I called it The Courageous Walk is many conversations that I have with women, with students, with my mentees, with those that I counsel. A lot of these stories I naturally share with them as a form of encouragement and a way to connect. And so I thought, what is the main reason, or what gets someone to overcome trials? What really helped me? And a big part of it was courage, because I reflected on the fact that it took me almost 2 years to do this because I was afraid. And also, when you read comments of other people's channels and so on, I wasn't sure if I had the stamina and the wherewithal to face all of that, the critique, inevitable critique that would come my way. And I think now that I have spent more time in my job speaking to women that I don't know, in fact, speaking to anyone, but really my original intention was for this space to be targeting women who are looking for encouragement and also want to encourage each other. It just so turns out that there are lots of men who also read my blog.
That's good.
and feel encouraged. So, so the target audience really is for women, but I'm finding that men are enjoying what I have to say just as much. So everyone, welcome.
Isn't it amazing though, Jonelle, how fear keeps us in one place and prevents us from moving forward? It's absolutely amazing. Tell me, is the blog sort of like an extension of your PhD work, or was it inspired by your PhD work or something?
Well, I think it's not an extension of my PhD work, but certainly an extension of my clinical work. And since I'm not currently a practicing clinician because of, switch gears and, in terms of the work that I do, but I still have that desire to do the work without having to do the extensive self-care that comes with pouring hours and hours into other people's lives and preparing. Yes. And so I feel like this is the middle ground for me to be able to share that knowledge, share that encouragement, share some of that wisdom that I've gained over the years, while at the same time having space to have some level of separation. I also like, now that I've started having conversations with some of my followers and those that have been reading the blog, one-on-one, that has been really interesting because I'm talking to women from other countries who have had similar experiences or are still in the midst of some of those struggles. And it has really been interesting to have that one-on-one conversation and be able to do the same sort of work without the pressure of your therapy.
Yes.
And it really is a good feeling to know that you can do that. But I have to admit, the first time someone messaged me, I was so shocked. I was like, someone wants to talk to me. It like 10 minutes before I responded, because I was like, well, what do I say? Do I talk like
Yes.
I really would? It was really, I felt the fear coming. I was like, well, what if
Yes,
it's the
yes.
wrong thing and then I get blasted on the internet?
Mm-hmm.
But it turns out that it was nothing like that. It was just a regular conversation with someone wanting questions, and we spoke for about an hour, and that was very encouraging. And so now I'm no longer shocked when people visit the blog. I'm no longer shocked when people message.
Is there still fear? Is there still fear?
Yes, of course. I mean, there was a lot of fear to even sit here. We talk all the time.
I know.
I think fear keeps us from really fulfilling our destinies because it's part of us is focused on the what ifs.
Yes.
And generally,
I think too, it's also about vulnerability. You know,
absolutely.
we are afraid to get out there and to show our true selves and to be vulnerable. That's something that I think all of us, including myself, struggle with. What do I put out there? Will I be received? Will I be accepted? So I think that's something that certain people have to overcome. The blog you talk you talk about lots of personal stuff. You tell your story. What is it that you want the audience to know about you in particular? What is it you want them to know about you as a person?
Well, I think in order to connect with others and to build credibility and to build connection, you have to share your story. It's, I am not some expert that's coming in that is talking about what the research says. And, so it's very academic, even though that's the world that I was in. For me, I want the average woman, any person at this point to be able to, when they're reading my story, to be able to connect with me in a place that, oh, someone else has also had a similar story.
Yes.
And not only did they experience some of the negative experiences that I had, but also I overcame it. Mm-hmm. So there's a point of connection. And I also believe that relationships, authentic relationships, points of connection can only truly be made with authentic presence, with an authentic story. And I think that people are seeking that, particularly on the internet, because it's very difficult to decipher who is genuine and not.
Yeah.
Because everyone creates an image.
Yes.
Not to say that I plan on sharing the depths of my soul on the internet. It has to be something left for friends.
Yes.
And family.
Yes.
Yes. Sure.
Some things can be kept private, of course.
Absolutely, but enough. The things that I'm talking about are not things that I have not shared with other people, that I have not shared with colleagues and students and clients. And so it's just another forum for me to share that information.
Yeah. What was your most challenging post? Like what posts you made gave you the most heat?
The one on forgiven.
Okay. Why? Tell me why was it the most challenging one?
I think because I revealed a little bit more about my spirituality.
Okay.
And I felt usually when I talk about that stuff, it's more in the context of someone who we're having a conversation around religion, we're having a conversation around God or something along those lines. And so for me, that personal journey with Christ and the struggle and having to face myself and to deal with the darker side of myself and then to come out on the other side, for me, is one of the most vulnerable places.
Yes.
And aspects of my story and my identity. And so it took me 2 days to actually write it. There were so many distractions. I mean, I chose to binge watch my television shows. There were, it really was a process. I did not finish it. It took me like 6 hours because it was one distraction after the other. And then I got tired and I thought, well, maybe I could push it off. And then I remembered my commitment to be consistent. And so I really was nervous about the feedback or what people would say about it. And the next day, so many people messaged me to talk about how timely it was. And, it reminded them of certain people that they need to really work on forgiving. And so it was shocking in a way that
yes.
I went through such a process to write it and to share that, with a fear of it not connecting or whatever. And then to hear other people say, this was encouraging, thank you for sharing, it was right on time. It was like, oh, this is what happens when you're obedient. And sometimes when you feel a pull or a push or some sort of struggle when you're trying to do the right thing, it doesn't mean that you should stop. It probably means more than ever that you need to push past it.
Yes. That's something that your blog, so I read it, and I think for me what was reinforced in my mind was the fact that forgiveness is really for you, for your own peace of mind. Growing up in Guyana, and I know you know what I'm talking about because we're both Guyanese. Your parents would tell you, forgive and forget. People love to quote the Bible, forgive and forget. Yeah. And you were small then, you had little tips with your friend, but you moved on. But I think for me, when I became an adult and had to go through certain things, discrimination, hurt, and all manner of things, that became real, indeed. And I can personally say that I've encountered some hurts that required me to forgive. And peace came the minute I forgave. When I forgave, that's when peace came. That's when a burden was sort of lifted, So yeah, I can certainly relate to your blog. What is it like, though, sharing your personal story? What is it like to put yourself out there?
It is wonderful and scary, and it's sort of like a continuum of all the goodness over here and everything fear driven over here. And depending on what I'm talking about, there's like I fluctuate as I go. And I'm also, when I'm talking about my story, I try to be very sensitive on when I'm sharing about people who are still around.
Yes.
And to be very sensitive on that, because just because I want to share my story does not mean the other people in my story want themselves to be identified.
Yes.
And they may not have come to terms with that journey themselves. And so sometimes I have to go back and change, some of the words or the way I include the person so that it's not as obvious to people from that time to be able to pinpoint. So, for example, the very first blog, the only people who would really be able to pinpoint who I was talking about are those who were directly involved.
Okay.
And some of them have no memory, so they don't even know who I'm mentioning, and that's fine. Even better.
Yes.
Even better. But it was interesting after the first blog post to talk to my friends and then us have a conversation about some of those those situations that I spoke about even more. Okay. Not that we're like 2 decades later, reflecting on it. And it has really been a wonderful conversation starter. And for me, it's interesting because I think that, from doing all the research on how to do a right blog and things like that, you want people to be engaged, you want people to comment, you want people to like because
Yes.
it's saying to some algorithm that people care about what you have to say.
Say, yes.
But after like the first blog, so many people messaged me directly from my friends, you know, and I was like, write it in the comments, say
Yes.
it, you know. But at the same time, I was like, well, the goal of this was to have conversations and to have engagement. And if that's my goal, then it doesn't truly matter if the engagement is directly on the blog or with me. And, you know, so that was a little bit hard to deal with, because according to the experts,
yes,
this is what a successful blog
should look like. Yes.
Should look like.
Yes.
And,
yes.
and I feel like I've done the research, so we want everything
yes.
to look like it says.
Yes.
And so I really had to, you know, and I think part of this is coming back to my original motivation for doing this. I think because my motivation really is to build a community of women, and in this case, to build a community of people who can encourage each other. So it's not just me coming in as the expert telling you what you should and shouldn't do, but it's an opportunity for us to share our life experiences, because it's through sharing our stories, sharing the highs and lows, that we encourage each other and encourage ourselves when we remember, you know, how much we've overcome.
Yeah.
So it has been a learning journey to put all of that out, and the amount of time and investment that is required.
Well, quality stuff requires hard work, my dear.
Yes, nowhere in my lifetime I thought I would be creating graphics, and I never really considered myself a creative person, but I am so grateful for Canva.
Are we making a plug here for Canva?
I don't know where I would be without it. So.
I understand. You know, you talk about something, and it triggered a question in my mind. Ultimately, what is it you want to get out of this? Where do you kind of see this going?
For myself, I think ultimately, well, I love to talk. I love to engage with others. I really am a people person. And I think my ultimate goal with this is to be able to have such a large community that, I mean, I want to be able to write a book. Yes. And I want to be able to, I would love to be able to then meet my followers and to meet the community of women in person. Yes. And to, you know, create programs and things like that to take engagement to the next level. Because I think this is, to some extent, is wonderful, but it, you know, it's still kind of surface. I would love for it to, you know, to go to the next level where I can engage on a deeper level, to be able to mentor and to model and to support, you know, women on even higher level. Yes. For them to feel equipped and courageous enough to do what I'm doing, or whatever it is that their heart's desire is to do.
What advice you would give to someone who, like you know, has a dream, has a goal, and is being sort of kept back by fear? What advice do you give them? What do you tell them?
I think at first, you know, make a list. This was something that really got me going. I made a list of what it is that I wanted to do. What was my ultimate goal? And what platforms would I need to engage with in order to get there? Yes. So, you know, I also had to consider that I do have a full-time job that is emotionally taxing. And so what can you start with that allows you to continue doing the things that you have to do? Yes. Yes. That would bring you some joy to be able to do. So it could be, you may not even have to start a blog. You could, you know, if you like taking pictures, take pictures, and, you know, get an Instagram. I mean,
there's Instagram. I was just about to say that, you know, free resource. Yes.
Free resources. Just use your social media to, if, you know, you want to do something very different than your current social media, then create a new one. There's no limit. Start a new page and post the things that you want. There's always someone. The world is so huge. There really is not enough people around to meet all those needs. There's always going to be people who can benefit from what you have to offer. But you also have to figure out what it is that you have to offer. Something that, you know, a lot of the influencers that I follow, that I have been following for a while, you know, they all speak about you must be doing something that you're passionate about.
Yes.
Not doing it because it looks like these people make lots of money.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
and they have lots of followers. But you do something that you're personally interested in, that you're personally passionate about, that even when you're tired, you're going to, even when you feel you're afraid, you're going to do it. And then also have a few friends that are your biggest cheerleaders and bring them into the story. Because that's what I did. Really, the moment I started to get serious about this, my circle of friends played a big part from choosing my logo. They played such a big part. They were selecting logo, looking at colors. You know, before I posted the first post, I shared it with them to get.
That's what friends are for, my dear. That's what friends are for.
But you just have to be very selective, right? You have to select the friends that you have had experience with, that you know they have your back, that they're genuinely interested and happy for your success. So that if you do get feedback that's not positive because they want your work to be excellent, you don't have to question the motivation.
Where it's coming from,
So, and also talk to people who, if you're targeting a particular group, talk to people from that group to see what it is that they're looking for, what they're interested in. Because at my job, a lot of the women that I've talked to, work with, the feedback that I've gotten on other things was encouragement for me to say, oh, okay, there's still a need for what I have to offer. You know, and I also think it's important to do something that you can be yourself.
Yes. Be genuine and authentic. I think that's quite important. So if someone wants to find you, where do we find you on social media? I mean, we have Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I don't know what you have, Snapchat, whatever it is. Where do we find Dr. Reynolds? Where do we find you?
Well, the blog itself is thecourageouswalk.com. On Instagram, it's at The Courageous Walk. On Facebook, it's at Courageous Walk, because someone else already has The Courageous Walk. I had no idea. So those are the two main places. And when we finally post this video, it will also be on YouTube under The Courageous Walk.
Do you have a Twitter account, Jonelle?
I do not. I do not have the.
I was advised that if you're doing that sort of thing, you need a Twitter account, you know, to spit out to your followers, hey, check out my new post. Girl, I don't know. I was just told.
Yes, I do not have the capacity
to manage multiple. I tend to forget passwords, so I can't afford to have, you know, more than 2 social media sites at all.
Yes. For now, I feel like I am going to just focus on Instagram and Facebook.
Good.
You know, I feel like I'm still getting into the rhythm.
Yes.
And so that's what I'm going to do for now. Okay. And I'm praying that I'll get to a place where I can get an intern.
Okay. Oh dear.
That would be like a wonderful goal for me.
We're moving up here. We're moving up. Good.
Because I feel like if I have an intern, then I could do Twitter. I could do a lot more things. I could focus on the content and then have the intern.
You may want to consider some apps, you know. I've been told we have like Post Manager and a few other apps that can help with that.
I do use those for post, but you know, it still requires manually for you to put the things in. It still requires manually for me to create the graphics in the post. It still requires, you know, time and energy.
Yes.
And so it would be, so my ideal would be to have someone who could do that sort of stuff,
Mhm.
and I could focus on, like writing the blog and, providing the things, and then they put it together and keep
Yes.
track of things. And, obviously like me respond to messages and things like that,
Yes.
so at this point it's somewhat easy for me to manage all of it because, it's just a small group
It's
of people.
yes. It's now getting started. Yes.
It's now getting started, and I'm still building up my identity, my footprint on the
Yes.
internet. And so I think for now it's fine, but my goal would be.
Your goal. It's always good to have goals. Always good to have goals. Any final words of advice, encouragement, anything you want to say before we close out?
Well, I think that I guess I just want people who follow, new followers and those who've been consistently reading my posts to know that I am genuinely interested in your story. For me, it's all about the story.
Yes.
And I think that I also want to know, what else do you want me to talk about? Because at this point,
Mm-hmm.
I'm sharing stories and topics that I feel inspired to do.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's just as important to talk about the things that you want to hear about. So, feel free to message me on any of, whether it's on the blog or on Facebook or social media, and let me know what it is that you want us to talk about, what you want me to talk about. Rhonda will be coming back as my first guest.
Interviewer and guest. Okay, I like that.
Yes,
like
but we'll spin it around so that I
Yes. Yes. I'll be in the hot seat next time, and
yeah,
you can shoot
yeah.
the questions at me. Yes.
It's only fair.
It's only fair. Yes, only fair. What are friends for?
Absolutely.
Ah, Donna, it was really nice talking to you. I consider this a pleasure to introduce you to the social media world. You and I, like I said at the beginning, we've known each other for decades.
Over a decade. Let's go with that.
Oh, let's go there. Okay, over a decade. We've known each other for quite a while, and it's been really exciting to stand with you as you take all these wonderful steps. So, guys, thank you for watching.
Thank you.